Good. Yourself?
Franklin County Commissioners meeting, July 16, 2020.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the regular weekly meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. For the record, all three commissioners are participating today. Myself, Commissioner Peck, serving as chair, Commissioner Didier, and then on the phone is our regular chair, Commissioner Cook, who is out on some personal time. We're getting a lot of echo there. I'm not sure there's much we can do with it. Maybe just turn the mics a little bit. All right. Well, we'll deal with it. First order of business this morning is a call to order, so we're officially in order at 9 a.m. And if you would, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I might ask him to mute that on his end. Commissioner Cook, would you mind muting your phone on your end?
That seems to have helped. Thank you. All right. Yeah, it's a little strange, but it works. Okay, first item on our regular agenda this morning is a presentation by about chaplaincy healthcare. Executive Director Gary Castillo is here. Mr. Castillo, our practice normally, if you're comfortable and you want to, is come on up and just have a seat with us. If you prefer, you can stand at the mic, whatever you like. Absolutely.
Good to see you. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, try the button on the bottom there.
Hello?
Karen? Are these working at all this morning? There you go. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Well, thank you very much. My name is Gary Castillo. I want to thank the commissioners for giving me an opportunity to come and take a few minutes and talk about chaplaincy healthcare. I also want to Hello? Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, speak right up into it. Okay, is this better or no?
Yeah. You know what?
Talking? Yeah, absolutely. I'm used to doing that.
So just go ahead and if you would put the mic about halfway, and that way the recording will pick it up, but you don't need to worry about the amplification.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Again, my name is Gary Castillo, and I'm the Executive Director of Chaplaincy Healthcare. I want to thank the commissioners for giving me an opportunity to come and provide an update on the things that Chaplaincy Healthcare is doing, especially when it comes to some of the initiatives and projects that we're looking at in Pasco. I do want to personally thank Commissioner Cook. He extended an invitation to me to present to the commissioners some time ago, and I really appreciate the offer. Just a quick history for those of you that don't know about chaplaincy healthcare. We've been in the Tri-City area for close to 47 years. We've been serving this community, providing services with a mission in mind. We're a nonprofit, standalone organization, and interestingly enough, we're also a member congregation, which means communities of faith, about 29 of them, are our member congregations. And they certainly help chaplaincy in carrying out our mission here in the Tri-Cities. A couple of things about our services. Most people know us for our hospice services. We've been doing those for close to 30 years. We currently have about 200 patients that are currently receiving those services, both in Benton and Franklin County. We've had quite a bit of growth over the years. We also operate a 10-bed hospice house, or inpatient unit in Kennewick. We've had that hospice house for 27 years. And what's amazing about that hospice house is that it was built by volunteers and all the materials for it were donated. So we're looking at some changes in our hospice house, which I'll talk about at the end of my short presentation here. We also operate a palliative care program. People always ask me, Gary, what is palliative care and why is that important? Well, there are a lot of members of our community who maybe are hospice eligible but are not ready to take that step into hospice. Or they're simply just hospice eligible but they're seeking aggressive treatment. So we want to make sure that we reach out to those members of our community in their homes, or what they consider to be their home. They could be living in their own residence, maybe in assisted living. And we work with the primary care physician with that patient, providing home services. Our palliative care program is pretty robust. We have nurses, ARNPs, chaplain social workers that are visiting patients in our community throughout the week, making sure their pain and symptoms are being managed, and also coordinating care with their primary care physician. So when they're ready to make that step into hospice, it's a much easier transition. One of the things about hospice care, whenever we send a survey out to families after the loved one has passed, the number one thing they say is, we wish we had known about this sooner. And so we think palliative care gives families an opportunity to understand hospice sooner, and when they're ready to make that transition into the hospice program, like I said, it's a much easier transition. We also offer a pretty robust behavioral health program. People always ask me here, why behavioral health? We focus on a Medicare and Medicaid population. If you're a Medicare recipient in this community, and that number continues to grow, if you want access to a behavioral health therapist, you're looking at about 9 months out, and you're only looking at 4 or 5 providers here in the community. So Chaplaincy Healthcare saw an opportunity here with a mission. And so the majority of the patients that we serve are with the Medicare and Medicaid, and of course, those who can't pay for services. We also have an extensive program that provides these services out in the community, which is pretty unique. We actually send therapists out to the community to provide these services. We also offer the services in bilingual, so Spanish-speaking clients can also access these services. If I could hire 10 therapists that showed up at my door tomorrow, I'd hire 10 therapists. That's how much these services are needed here in the community. We also have our Course Place, which is our amazing center. We've had it for 15 years out in Kennewick. This is a grief service that's available to both Benton and Franklin County residents. These are kids 3 to 17 who are experiencing a significant loss in their life. 15 years ago, when we established this program, most of the kids that were in the program had had a loss due to a family member maybe dying in an accident, a car accident, or just something unusual. In the course of 15 years, that population has changed in terms of why they're there. The majority, over 50% of the kids that are in that Course Place grief programs are there because a parent or significant other has committed suicide. That's a prevalent theme in our community. There's a number of suicides that happen. The impact on kids is absolutely amazing. And so we have 56 kids that are currently at Course Place, and unfortunately we have a waiting list of 44 kids who would love to get into the program. So part of what Chaplains is going to be trying to do in the next couple of years is make sure that we can close that gap and get those 44 kids into our grief support program. Of course, we're called Chaplaincy, so we have chaplains at Chaplaincy. We've got over 19 chaplains that work for our organization. So if you happen to be at one of our area hospitals and happen to run into a chaplain, more than likely where we are, that's a chaplaincy employee. They contract us out to all the hospitals. We've been able to provide spiritual care to patients in this community for quite some time. And anytime something happens in this community that's unusual, tragic, Chaplaincy Healthcare gets called. And we send chaplains, social workers, therapists out into the community to help those organizations or those businesses get through the grief and trauma of maybe a sudden loss. One of the things we're doing is we're taking our Course Place program out into the schools. Every time we have a suicide in one of our high schools, we get called out. We send our counselors and therapists out there. But what happens after the death of the friend? What happens after the families leave? What happens after they have a memorial service with a young person? You have kids that are trying to figure out how to send them to get back into school. And so we were asked by Southbridge High School, Richland, Hanford, Pasco, if we could take a program like Course Place and actually bring it into the schools. And so the kids are required to be in school all day. We use an open hour. We meet every other week. And ever since we started these programs, we haven't had one kid that's dropped out or said, I don't want to attend. So grief for kids 3 to 17 or young people in high school is very important. If we can get them to resolve grief at an early age, just think of the difference and impact they'll have in our community in years to come. A couple of updates. We're getting ready to physically be in Pasco. Over there on 14th and 4th, there's a medical building that's predominantly used by Lourdes Medical Center. We'll be opening up an office there. And out of that office, we'll provide all of our services. We'll have it as a hospice drop site, so our hospice team can more easily serve the area. We'll do palliative care services at a clinic setting. We'll do behavioral health services. We have a few therapists that we're getting ready to hire that we'll put in that location. And we're also doing a monthly Hispanic bereavement meeting location. Our Hispanic community, we've been able to serve it effectively, and so part of those services is making sure that they get good grief services. Our hospice house 27 years, we're kicking the tires, and we're realizing that we need to do something about this facility. We've had issues over the last couple of years in passing surveys, and so we're looking at a plan, a capital campaign to possibly take our hospice house from 10 beds to 12 and allow those services to be in this community for years to come. Chaplaincy Healthcare is committed to making sure that every single member of our community never dies alone, and we will take care of them regardless of authority. That hospice house has been used effectively for many, many years. We want to continue to offer those services for years to come. And one more quick note, we've been able to look at the possibility of fundraising through thrift stores. So how many of you have been to one of our repeat boutique thrift stores? Great, awesome. We also hope to open one here in Pasco in the next couple of months. These thrift stores have made a significant contribution to helping our hospice house deficit. Hospice houses don't pay for themselves. They run a deficit in the 6 figures every single year. 2 thrift stores have helped to close that gap. We hope a 3rd thrift store located in Pasco will even help to close that gap even more. So if you have any items in your garage or your house that you want to declutter and bring, please bring them over to Repeat Boutique stores. There's one right now in Richland and also in Kennewick. And 100% of those proceeds go to help our hospice house for a good cause. I think I've covered everything as quickly as possible. Any other questions or concerns that I can answer for anything?
Anybody have any questions you want to ask? We don't normally go to the audience, but there's no reason not to. If anybody's got a question, feel free.
Thank you for the services you provide. I've witnessed them firsthand, and definitely.
Thank you very much. On behalf of our board, our volunteers, 200 of them, our staff, and myself, I want to thank the commissioners and also all of you for the support you've given chaplaincy over the years. And please, if there's a need that you have for our services, please give us a call. I've left some information with the commissioners. I'll also leave some here.
Hey, just one administrative question. Are you a C4?
No, we're a 401c3.
You're a C3?
C3.
Okay. There's, of course, 1 through 6, and each of them has specialties in Category 4, I would have assumed. Okay.
501c3.
All right.
And I would just like to say thank you because you have personally touched some of our neighbors out there in the blocks, and my mother has contributed to your numerous times, and I want to thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thanks. Okay, next item this morning on our agenda is a preliminary approval for SUB 2019-01 Milan Estates. And I understand Ms. Stickney is going to present for us.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, my name is Nicole Stickney. I'm here to represent the Lincoln County Planning Department. And we're bringing to you today a request for preliminary approval of SCB 2019-01, which is known as Milan Estates. This is the preliminary long plat application to divide approximately 10 acres into 16 single-family lots. They would be approximately a half acre each. And this is located in the RS-20 zoning district. The nearest intersection to this plat would be Port Street and Road 68. There's an existing residence addressed as 1904 Road 68. So this is included in the Pasco urban growth area, and it carries a mixed residential land use designation. The proposed plat is consistent with the zoning and the land use designation. The plat is proposed to be connected to City of Pasco water that have septic system for each lot of the plat. There is a well existing at the moment. That well will be decommissioned. Another aspect of this long plat, is that a new street will be created. It'll be called Lower Court. It'll be a cul-de-sac that will connect to Road 68 to provide access to some of the lots. The Planning Commission has voted unanimously to board a positive recommendation to the board for this preliminary approval. They cited 6 findings of fact and 7 conditions of approval. I did want to highlight that one of the conditions of approval is that the plat will need to have a note on the face of the plat saying that this is in a right to farm area. Staff is also recommending approval of this plat. And with that, I'll answer any of the questions you have. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Cook, I know you're on the phone. Just unmute and chime in if you have a question.
Well, thank you. I read through all three days. Good to hear.
Okay. For those of you who couldn't say, it was Commissioner Cook saying he's read all the materials and he didn't, he said it looked good from here is how he put it. Commissioner Didier, any comments, questions?
Just one I have. Looking through the information, it says all lots shall contain a half acre of usable land area after all easements and encumbrances are subjected. The minimum lot size to support a well and on-site sewage system is 1 acre. Prior to final approval of this plat, all wells on lots less than 1 acre shall be properly decommissioned through the Department of Ecology. My question is, all these lots are going to have a septic system?
There will be surface on-site septic storage systems, and then the water connection is going to be from the city.
Right.
So we don't need an acre, we just need the half.
Right. But my concern is for the septic system. There's no city sewage out there?
I don't know the nearest connection to the city sewage. The city, I believe, is going to look at this. They might require a hookup.
My reasoning is that there's a well on, it says, any wells within 150 of this development shall be shown on the plat and will include 100-foot sanitary controls zone, and 2104 Road 68 is within that.
Yes, so the well will be decommissioned for the existing
Oh, okay.
house. It's going to be hooked up to the city water.
And that's my only concern is that's a lot of septic systems in a pretty tight area.
It is.
And I was wondering why we weren't connecting to the city sewer system.
Again, the city may request that of the applicant. I don't know the distance. I don't believe that they commented on that. So I
Okay.
don't have that information from the city. They do have a part in their code that says that they can enter into development agreements with applicants when they're providing services. So once that water will be hooked up, they may feel that they have the authority or ability to ask for that connection to the sewer system. They've also, as you've seen in the packet, have requested a reconfiguration of the lots and requested a right-of-way dedication. Since that's not a county standard and the county public works department didn't agree with that recommendation from the city staff, we have not included that with our piece with the resolution that would go forward and best the plat to the conditions.
Because I noticed also in here that the Department of Health has got to okay every one of them for a septic system, which should be the case. But if they deem the property not suitable for a septic system, then they're going to have to get to the city sewer system, correct?
Right, or set a valid lot until such kind of service is shown.
Okay. That was my only concern.
So in the ASR, it says that one of the coordinating agencies was the city of Pasco. Have they expressed any concerns about the sewer connection or the use of septics at this particular area, which I think we all know is flat and well drained?
Their comment was that the city of Pasco requires a water and sewer connection for all new construction. If the developer wishes to connect to either utility, he or she must complete a utility waiver application, which would be approved by the city manager for approval or denial. And they're also going to require, and again, this isn't in our conditions because it's not part of our code, but they're going to require, if they provide water, that the basement plat shall include a statement about the owner waiving the right to protest the formation of a local improvement district for sewer, water, road, sidewalk improvements in the future. So, they have skin in the game going forward with the development as it occurs, so they may pursue these items, but that will be between the city and the developer to work out those details.
So effectively, the city and the county transfer, I don't want to say liability, but responsibility to the future owners of those lots for an LID that might be used to pay for those connections.
That's correct.
And that's typically the vehicle that the city will use to say, we, the city, are not in a position or don't wish to fund the cost of the sewer extension now. And so if you'll establish this agreement, then we know that it's paid for in the future. If and when those septic systems fail, they're required to hook up, and that could drive the LADs sooner. But otherwise, it's a normal course of time when they would be connected. Did I get all that right?
Yeah, and just to be clear, this development may not go, it depends on how the city enforces their development agreement and how hard they push for it. This may not go without sewer connection, quite frankly, but in terms of the county's perspective, the health department has sort of pre-approved these sites based on the soil conditions for septic, and so since we don't provide sewer, we're recommending that you approve the subdivision to be vested to have a septic requirement. If they want to go above and beyond that, or if they need to.
Yeah.
So separate.
Now, they're vested once they get a completed, accepted application and pay their fee, right? Technically, isn't that when their application is vested?
Their application vests to the requirements based on that date.
Okay.
Of course, they don't have any entitlements at this point until the resolution is
Right.
approved.
Right. It's just a mark in time where no additional requirements can be added on top.
That's correct.
That's the vesting. So it's a, I guess, little known secret, but in some of my reading, I discovered that there's not really anything that is a hard mandate on the 1 acre for a septic. Franklin County has used that, but it's actually a half acre under state law, as I understand it, and we've used 1 acre to provide essentially a buffer for areas where maybe some portion of the lot is not ideal for a septic. In this particular case, it's flat, it's sandy, it's well drained, and I don't anticipate any issues. But if there were a portion of a lot that was rocky or not suitable, I would be asking you to look at those lots in individual case and seeing if there really is a high-quality, well-drained half acre, and making sure that the houses are constructed in such a way that half acre is available. I suspect you know that. I've never brought it up before, but I thought I might as well put it into the record just going forward, because we may find ourselves in a situation where the city wants to drive a requirement for someone else to pay for an extension of sewer, and I don't want us to assume that we have to go down that path on the basis that it's a 1 acre standard when it's really not. So.
One
Okay.
other question is, why did Pasco School District appeal the SEPA determination?
Yeah, there's actually a lot to explain behind that. So we initially put out a SEPA DNS, and as their typical procedure has been, they appealed the decision based on the fact that impact fees or any mitigation fees were not being imposed by the county. The county has not adopted any impact fees or has not required mitigation in the past for school impacts. The county usually points to the fact that, a bond recently approved and things like that are funding schools. In this case, the appeal was in place, and then it was discovered that this is actually a SEPA exempt project. So the county has adopted categorical exemption thresholds for different types of minor construction, as it's called in the SEPA code. And this is below that threshold. So actually what we did later is we rescinded the SEPA determination because SEPA should not have been completed in the first place. I will add that it was a mistake on our part. It's been something that's been done many times in the past by the county, however. It's been sort of kind of a rote process to always put out any long plat for SEPA, but really that shouldn't be happening for this number of lots unless there's some water on the site or shoreline, something like that, to otherwise drive it through that process. So in the end, they appealed it, and then we returned their money for the appeal because it's inactive, basically, any SEPA determination. We also are refunding the SEPA fee that was paid by the developer for the application. So that's our short-term remedy. In the long term, our remedy will be to update the subdivision code to say that a SEPA checklist is required with long plat applications unless exempt. We'll have to add that language. We'll also be revising our application so that this doesn't occur in the future.
Okay, thank you.
This particular piece of ground about, 7 years ago, maybe, guessing, we had an application somebody wanted to put a landscaping nursery business in there. And as I recall, they wanted to push it up against the northern boundary of the lot, right up just 5 feet outside of Mrs. Johnson's bedroom window. And she expressed concern to us, and I think the board properly put some requirements on that, including some separation from that residence. I don't think that applies in this case, but I'm sharing that information just to refresh memories. The big stumbling block was that it was determined that because of the commercial nature of it, that it was going to be necessary to add a turn lane in there, given the volume of traffic that moves between Court and northbound on Road 68. I'm assuming because I didn't see any requirement for that, and even though we're still using a single point access into a cul-de-sac, we don't see the volume of traffic for that number of residences requiring any kind of a turn lane where we did previously for a commercial business. Is that an accurate reflection?
Yeah, at this time we've received nothing from Public Works in case they would require a turn lane for this. It would be residential volumes, and I would say it would be different times of the day that the access would be occurring as opposed to a commercial business.
Which is ongoing.
5 more intense
Right,
access.
right. And I suspected that was the case. Again, I like to get these things on the record in case somebody comes back and says you wanted us to do a turn lane, but you're not requiring them to do one. Now we've aired it out and made it a matter of record. Okay. Keith, did you have any comments or questions on anything in here?
No, I think mine have been addressed.
Okay, well, last call for comments or questions from anyone. Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Didier. Not hearing any.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. Well, not hearing any, then what's the desire of the board? Options would be to table it. I don't see any reason to do that personally. A motion for approval of the provided resolution would be in order if that's the wishes. What's the preference?
Chairman, I would move for approval of the resolution. I'm aware of the numbers.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion for approval of Resolution 2019-218 provided on the phone by Commissioner Cook, and it is entitled Preliminary Approval for SUV 2019-01 Milan Estates to subdivide approximately 9.89 acres into 16 single-family residential lots. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution as just read into the record. Last call for comments or questions. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Approval of Resolution 2019-218. Thanks very much to our planning department for your able assistance in walking us through all this. Derek, if you would, please let me know what we hear from the city with respect to sewer and water connections. Okay, thanks. We can sign these a little bit later when we get to that lengthy consent agenda. Next item of business is a discussion on the naming of a new road into Juniper Dunes Wilderness Area. This is a follow-on from a previous conversation. Staff is recommending that we either call it Juniper Dunes Road or Juniper Dunes Drive. And our county engineer, Mr. Erdman, is here to chat with us. Did I get it right so far?
So far, so good.
So really all you need to know is whether we prefer road or drive?
That would be it.
Okay.
Would you like some background for the record for the project, or?
Feel free. I think we covered it in a previous meeting, but it won't hurt if you want.
Okay. On July 29th, 2015, the Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 2015-264 to establish the route known as Alternative 2 as a county road. The county then acquired right-of-way along this 4.3 corridor. And on October 23rd, 2018, the Board of County Commissioners entered into a contract with Goodman and Millibacher Enterprises Incorporated for the construction of the new road, with funding provided for construction by the Bureau of Land Management and Western Federal Lands Highway Division. On July 2nd, 2019, the road met criteria for substantial completion and is now open to the public. This new road requires an official recognized name, as stated before. And Public Works has reviewed the names according to the road naming conventions and recommends the board name the new road either Juniper Dunes Drive or Juniper Dunes Road as may please the board.
Okay, thank you. Comments, questions? I'll just offer that I normally associate drives with being in urbanized areas generally and roads being in more rural areas. I prefer road, but it's not something I can't be flexible on.
Yeah,
I would suggest that same thing. I would prefer roads also.
And I've highlighted road because I think that's appropriate.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's unanimous that we'll call it road, and I'll draw a line through the drive one so we don't accidentally use that.
I have
It's,
just
I'm
one.
sorry, go ahead.
I have one question that really isn't related to the name, but is there any potential that in the future that road gets extended further north to a connector out there? Has that ever been discussed?
Anticipated, given the terrain and the land use
In the wilderness area.
Yeah, in the wilderness area. I find it really doubtful that would occur.
Yeah, unless there's a land use destination that takes it out of wilderness. There's not a road going, not a public road going through there. No. Okay, well, Resolution 2019-219 is the appropriate one for naming it Juniper Dunes Road. Anyone wishing to motion for approval, simply say, so moved, and I'll read the title.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval of Resolution 2019-219, and we have a second, and the resolution is entitled Proposal. Thank you. Title is Proposal to Name the New Road to the Juniper Dunes Wilderness Area and Adjacent Off-Highway Vehicle Area as Juniper Dunes Road. Again, we have a motion for approval and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. I went ahead and signed this one.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Greg. And you said it opened on the 2nd?
Yes.
You said? Any issues thus far?
My understanding was we had a little bit of damage on the road because of somebody.
Coming on and off the shoulder, maybe?
No, I think, well, there was a little bit of that, not anything substantial, but just a kind of.
Okay.
I can speak to that.
Probably horsing around on the road with a four-wheeler.
Reality is, the county constructed this nice road, and since it's been constructed, we've had people out there just really destroying the road. What we have is somebody went out there and peeled out and tore up a huge portion of the chip seal, so it's pretty frustrating from our standpoint. This is a public road that the people that are using it are not doing a good job of being good stewards of the road that the county and the federal government is paid to put in for them. So I know I have a bad habit of getting up when I'm frustrated, but I am frustrated when I see that kind of damage to the road. It's going to actually require some pretty significant repair from our standpoint.
So, Matt, is the road? Are you going to close the road and work on it, or what's the timeline look like? Let me rephrase. You're going to close the whole road to do these repairs, or
No.
you're going to close the section?
No, we'll just close the section as we need to do the repairs, but it's going to take our guys coming in with our chip seal crew and really doing what we call skip patch and going through the whole thing. And there might be some hot mix that we need to put in depending on how deep
Yeah.
they.
Well, I wouldn't be
went, but-
opposed to you closing the whole road and posting a sign that said road closed for repairs due to damage, or any other way you want to word it.
Yeah.
Second thing, the road is a public county road. It is not open for off-road vehicle traffic, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and do you think this damage was done with off-road vehicles or
No,
with
this
highway
doesn't.
vehicles?
The recent damage has not been done by an off-road vehicle. It looks like somebody's out there messing around. The on and off the road, where we're seeing some of the damage on the shoulder and all of that, that is being done by off-highway vehicles, off-road vehicles. unlicensed vehicles. We've actually witnessed it with our own eyes even out there. But the recent damage that we don't know exactly, but we had a staff member that went out on the weekend, took her mom and dad out there, and that's what they were welcome to on this road. So it's quite frustrating from our standpoint.
So I saw fencing on either side, presumably to keep livestock off the road. Is it going to be fenced down the full length both sides?
There's fencing locations, but once you get to Smith Canyon, what we've done is we've actually, part of the road construction is we created a path that's separated from the road that allows people coming through Smith Canyon to take that path and get all the way up to the where the road ends. And so we've done all of these things in coordination with BLM to provide a good access to those that are on off-highway or off-road vehicles. And right now we're pretty much just at the point where we're saying that we can't probably sign this enough to keep those types of vehicles coming. Now, whether or not they're on the road is really an enforcement issue, but them coming on and off the road in locations where it hasn't been designed then creates other issues.
Well, you're going to
that's
discover that where those roads come in and feed in, there's going to be common,
correct,
preferred entry and exit, and obviously that's the place to put your signage. And you're right, you probably can't put enough signage, but you do need to put some.
But I think the important thing is kind of going on public record here is people need to understand that there wasn't enough federal funding for us to go out and put an HMA, which most people refer to as asphalt. There wasn't enough money to do that. Originally, this project was designed to be a gravel road, but the federal government has provided some more money to the project so that we could actually BST it. So what people need to understand is that there's a huge difference between a BST road, a bituminous surface treatment, than an asphalt road, that basically what we're doing is we're just sealing the gravel road by putting oil and rock. And so when you drive, when you're peeling
I think it's an
out,
unrealistic expectation that we're going to educate the public on the difference between asphalt mix and chip seal.
Yeah.
So let's look at signage.
Yeah.
Please get with the sheriff. I'm sure he's got an interest, and see what we can do enforcement-wise.
Yeah.
And if it gets to it where we need to shut down the road to do repairs and send a message, then that's something for the board to consider.
Yeah.
But we're not going to have people out there tearing up a multi-million-dollar effort done for the public's benefit. And we all realize it's a fraction of 1% of the people, but we need to find out who they are, or at least the sheriff does.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, this is the point in our agenda for public comment. Anybody wishing to discuss anything of county-related business, feel free. There's another opportunity later in the meeting as well, and you're not prohibited from coming back if we don't answer your questions this time. And I'll just also add, there's no requirement for you to tell us who you are or where you live or anything, and for me that's a privacy issue. However, we do like to know who you are and if you live in the county, but it's up to you.
No worries. My name is Tyler Halliday, and sorry if I'm a little unprepared today because I just found out about it at the meeting yesterday afternoon. I guess what I'd like to come and talk about is a couple folds, so if I lose you, please let me know and I'll go back. But we have a tremendous amount of growth in Tri-Cities lately, and one of the places we as farmers are being impacted, I farm off of Falls Road in Franklin County, and as I'm a young guy, I just can't farm my dad's farm anymore. So we farm multiple farms. We grow from 17 to 16 to 15. With the increased growth, 395 traffic is horrendous. And what we find is it's a lot of outsiders that don't know how to navigate the turn and acceleration lanes we have already. Now, they had a big presentation at Country Mercantile where they're going to add acceleration and deceleration lanes. The problem is it's not going to do anything. It's going to make it worse. People don't know how to navigate them. We've had 4 wrecks in 2 weeks, one of which I was on July 3rd, where 2 little kids were T-boned. And thank God they missed them by 5. It was 5 feet difference, probably between life and death. And the really sad part about the whole fact is no one on the highway slowed down when the vehicles were in the middle of the median. And a secondary wreck occurred 50 feet from us while we were holding the kids. And, we actually had a vehicle in a wreck. Not in a wreck. They tried to say that we caused the wreck because when you're moving a truck, we're in the middle of potato harvest, you're moving across the highway. You're in a 30,000-pound rig. You hit it, you stop, and you go again. It's like playing Frogger, for any of those back in the day. Frogger at 75 miles an hour. The husband and wife, who we think were on their phone, were headed southbound, freaked out, perceived that our truck was going across, and ran into someone at the intersection on the CFN side, sitting at the stop line. We got ticketed for it. My truck never crossed the highway. My truck never hit anyone. And what's really sad is that no one's talking about it. I think, I talked to the State Patrol. I asked, why is the speed limit still 70 miles an hour? Why is it not 55? There's too much traffic, especially during the weekends. I mean, we're literally getting to the point where we're landlocked. We can't get equipment across the highway. When you're moving a tractor and a disc, you're over 100 feet long. There's not enough time to do it. And I guess I don't know where to go to voice these frustrations, because when I voiced them to the DOT, they just said this is what we're doing. And
I'm sorry, to who?
The DOT, when they had their
DOT,
informational
okay,
meeting
right,
with Gretchen
right.
Mercadal,
Right.
they just said this is what we're doing. We need an overpass, even an overpass at one of them. Reroute the traffic on the sides of frontage roads. I mean, there's roads out there that we can be accessing, at least if there's one. We put this beautiful interchange down at King City, and we still have semi-trucks from the processing plants crossing the highway in Foster Wells. Why is that still open? And, we've been getting away with it because traffic, we have been able to navigate it. That ship has sailed. There's just too much traffic now. And the second point I'd like to bring up is from county planning point. On Vineyard, we were sent out letters because we had a neighbor that wanted to sell his wine, do different things, open a building on the corner. None of the neighbors voted against it, right? So without any kind of change or any kind of letter sent out, now there's a gas station on the corner. Those people, again, are in such a hurry, it's in and out as quick as they can. They don't understand machinery traffic. They don't know how to navigate the speed up, the slow down. Like I said, there was a wreck the other day. There will be multiple wrecks all summer long. So I guess I'm not sure where else to go, but the conversation needs to be started. And I told Clint, he says a lot of people tell him about this. We had a tractor hit yesterday. Courtney Calloway had a tractor hit on Sagemore yesterday. I was told there was a guy died on Sagemore on a motorcycle on Sunday. So at some point, the county needs to be doing something to fix this because it is an increasing problem and it's not going to get any better.
So there's an inherent question in the middle of all this, which is, what is the county's role? What's its authority? What's its ability to influence the outcomes? And I'm going to ask our engineering and public works guys to weigh in a second, but I'll tell you my perspective, having worked with the state trying to get money for additional overpasses in the region, is frustrating. It's the nice word.
And I understand the funding issue. My thing is, can the county get to slow the speed limit down, at least? Can we start at the speed limit?
And I'll bring those guys up in a minute, but I'm going to tell you that it's a state highway. It's not a county roadway. The sheriff could speak to law enforcement jurisdiction, but that doesn't get to speed limits and overpasses. This dialogue really, in my opinion, needs to happen around a table with state representatives and state senators who can work with Washington DOT, who will then need to work with the feds to get federal money, because I can tell you there isn't going to be money at the state level for building additional overpasses unless the state perceives that it's a high risk, high necessity, high fatality area. I mean, it's a little dispassionate, but they look at numbers. How many people were killed? I know that the overpass just on the other side of the Snake River in Burbank was one where they had statistics that supported it. And I know that there's a plan for another one on the Franklin County side of the Snake River Bridge on Highway 12. And there's a push for one for a Red Mountain interchange out toward Benton City. There hasn't been really much of a push or discussion about ones on 395. DOT came to the table and said, we recognize that there are some issues with acceleration and deceleration in their judgment, they said it didn't rise to the level of needing overpasses. You and I might have a different opinion on that, but that's what drove the project and the funding for acceleration and deceleration lanes. So, Matt, anything you guys want
Real
to
quick,
add?
my point is I totally understand the funding thing.
Yeah.
But as a local constituent, I have to start somewhere.
No,
You guys listen first.
Yeah, no, I understand. And the advice that I tried to sandwich in there was you need to get around a table with state reps and state senators who have a voice, a much stronger voice than we do with DOT. I mean, I've got DOT putting up sound walls in places now that don't make any sense to me. And I've tried to talk to them about it. And, you know, really, unless you're, and I'm just giving my opinion. I'm a pretty transparent guy. I spend a fair amount of time in Olympia during the session trying to persuade different groups to do things for our county. And unless you're a participant in approving DOT's budget, my personal opinion is they don't hear very well. Just my opinion.
The
But
secondary
I
thing-
think getting, Senator Schessler and Representative Dye and Representative Schmick and others who represent our area around a table and soliciting their help, just like you're doing here today, is the most likely way to get the ball rolling.
The secondary thing I'd like to address is why the county would allow a gas station to be put in without proper infrastructure. There wasn't a need. There's gas 2 miles down the road at King City, which has how many? I don't know the facts. It's got to be a $20 million interchange. Why did we need a gas station there? Why did a gas station get approved there on a county level when there isn't infrastructure? Why did we exacerbate the problem on a county level? And why, as citizens, when that changed from a boutique wine shop to a gas station, why did we not get to have a period to vote on that?
So, Matt, you want to speak to the planning process? I'll just comment on we didn't need a gas station there. It's my view. I'm not even remotely interested in telling property owners and future business owners that you can't build business X because, in our judgment, we have enough of those.
Totally don't disagree, but you
Yeah.
also have a business.
But
right, infrastructure.
but the infrastructure needs to come with it.
Yeah.
I
go there.
I get that.
I use it.
I know.
There's no infrastructure.
I just want to be clear because
No,
the way you worded that didn't sound like
Like
you.
I said, I wish I had been a little more prepared than I was.
Okay.
I totally get that it's not the county's to deem needs and what individual landlords should do,
But
just
it
like
is
a turn
ours.
lane- Just like a turn lane on your nursery, you guys were on Road 68, you guys were going to require a turn lane.
That's right.
Because of the amount of traffic that was going in and out. Off the highway, when you're doing 70 miles an hour, and also where you can cross the intersection,
Yeah.
there needed to be some infrastructure in place to handle the increased traffic.
Yeah.
Someone should go sit there for now.
Yeah, I know the area, and that area is going to be more challenging in the future because from that intersection southbound on the west side of 395, that entire area there is all zoned for light industrial, and you'll see more development, you'll see more traffic. And if there's, well, that's down at King City. I'm talking from Foster Wells north on the west side of 395. If you look at the zoning maps, that's industrial, and that will get developed, and it'll bring a lot more traffic. And one of the discussion points has been the need for a frontage road, but that still doesn't get farm equipment across the interstate. And if there's anything that's likely to drive an overpass in that area, I think it's that industrial development. Matt, what would you add that's helpful? Not that you would add something that wasn't helpful, but
No, talking about 395 specifically and some of the what they're doing from a safety standpoint now and what's needed. I think that Commissioner Peck has it right that it has to go beyond DOT and talking to the representatives from our area. That includes even the speed limit. When we did East Foster Wells Extension, which connected Pasco Colotis to 395, we had extensive discussions with DOT then on what we felt should have needed to be done at that intersection, and it fell pretty much on deaf ears. So that's, I think that what Commissioner Peck said is a very good direction to go, which even includes the lowering of the speed limit. It's pretty surprising how little influence the county engineer or the public works department have on the DOT, on Washington State Department of Transportation.
And Matt, let me just add, there isn't anybody in this room that I know that is a, hey, not my problem kind of person. We would love to fix it if we thought we had a vehicle to do it. And more than happy to participate in those discussions. I know all of our elected representatives from the area. More than happy to help get that ball rolling. But
you have more clout than I do. And like I said,
well, I'm not sure that that's true.
I've asked both. I asked the state patrol, why are we not looking? And he was actually the one that brought it up. And he said, you know what? That's actually probably a really logical start. That's something that can be changed right now, right? An intersection, I know that's not going to happen. Or overpass is not going to happen for a long time.
Sure.
I understand the funding, there's not enough money over, but a speed limit sign can literally happen in an hour. I mean, they can change all that in an hour. And how many lives could that possibly save?
You've never worked in government, have you?
Well,
we don't do anything in an hour, but I get your point. I get your point. I get your point.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what's wrong with America today, and you should be proactive and change something before we get to the penalty kill. Because if who in this room is willing to say, I'm willing for someone that I know to die at an intersection before we shoot? I mean, there's no one that says.
We absolutely agree with you, but the sheriff is absolutely right. At the federal and state level, a lot of theirs is based on those statistics.
Because I want them to tell me what family member are they willing to give up so that this intersection, because I know my friends and my neighbors, someone will die. I almost watched two little boys.
Now, Todd Trepanier is the lead senior head person for this district, for DOT. And you can find him easily online. If you can't, you just give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to give you his contact information. It's Trepanier, Trepanier, I believe. And his office is on Fowler, just right there at the intersection of Columbia Center Boulevard and 240. You remember on the northwest corner of that intersection is a large building. It used to be Sears Distribution. Okay, they're in that building on the north end, the end closest to the river. So you come over the overpass and you take that Todd Trepanier. You just take that first left going west on Fowler, and it's going to be the first drive on your left, and their office is right on the end of the building, right next to the state revenue office where they collect use taxes.
Yes.
Convenient co-location.
Yeah.
So on the second part of my question,
Sure.
Sitting here and listening to this, when they were going to require a turn lane off of Road 68 for a nursery, why was it ever allowed for a gas station to go in without proper infrastructure? Why was that ever allowed to be?
What year did that happen?
Last year.
Yeah, it's been
there was
fairly
an existing business there. You're talking
there was
about.
a wine shop.
You're
There was
talking.
a wine shop for a man that owned a vineyard. That's
Well,
what the facility
it was also a restaurant. It was also a meeting place. I mean, they had a meeting room.
I mean, he tried to make the meeting place. It was never a meeting place. When we got sent the letters, it was a wine shop to sell his wine off of his farm.
Okay.
Period. End. That's what it was set out as.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to kind of defend the planning department. Applications come in and they go through a process, whether they be a conditional use permit or subdivisions, whether they be long plats, short plats. Those are processed. Those go in front of the planning commission at a hearing. They take testimony for and against. And based on all of that, well, even before that happens, we have a comment period that goes out. Now, from a 395 standpoint.
That was never done, though, from the switch.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yes.
He never got the letters like he did for the building.
Because we had an opportunity, even in our office, to make recommendations about that type of switch. The issue is we typically don't get a lot of input back from the DOT when we request their review of the project application. And certainly, like I said, dealing with East Foster Wells, us making recommendations on how they can make that intersection safer, certainly, so we can make all the requirements on 395 we want, but the DOT, if they say, no, you guys aren't doing any construction on 395, we don't care, then we put people who are trying to do something with their property that are going through the planning commission, recommendations are being made to the board is approving those. It kind of puts the DOT in a position then to really control what people do on their property. And that's not what we want to do, to where we're making requirements on another jurisdiction's facilities that they don't want people to be doing. And that's really what we're up against. We understand, we agree with you, even where the Mercantile is, I've had near misses there myself, and so we understand
and
that.
I was worried about the Mercantile versus the gas station, because Mercantile is just as big of a problem.
Yeah.
But people, when they go to the Mercantile, aren't as big a hurry when they go to the gas station.
Yeah.
Mercantile is the destination. The gas station is how fast can I get in and get out.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to make time. And I mean, it's as simple as maybe trying to have turn lane for these people. I mean,
Yeah.
that could help.
But I think it's just important to reiterate that the fact that any of these applications that come in, project applications, go through a very extensive review and public process, whether it be through the Planning Commission and through the Board of County Commissioners. I just need to reiterate, it's not the planning department that does these things. It's a process, and it's based on the input that we receive from other jurisdictions and the input from the adjacent landowners and the public in these public hearings, and then the decisions are made. So,
When I called it and asked the last time, they said there wasn't a comment period on the switch.
yeah,
That's what I was told from you guys' office.
So let me tell you how this, in my view, would play out. Property owner comes in, has got an existing business already permitted, wants to change the use, wants to put in a gas station. Everybody discusses it. We say, yeah, it's probably going to create some more traffic. County says, we think that creates a hazard on 395, so we're going to disapprove it. The applicant appeals it, comes back to us. The court says, again, my opinion, court says, county, you're out of your lane. It's a state highway. It's 395. DOT says there's not an issue. You lose. Issue the permit. That's exactly how I think it would play out. So that's why I think that the solution is not to look at the planning permitting process, but rather to look to DOT with the help of our state senators and representatives to say, we need these turn lanes, we need them to be long enough, we need to put maybe the plastic posts so that people don't go immediately from the intersection into the lane, but actually use. I'm sorry?
The lights like they do in the urban areas that go off the flow of traffic.
Yeah.
It tells you when you can go and when you can't.
You know, I'm not a traffic engineer. I kind of look to the state highway guys for that, but I get your point.
I guess my concern is too on the county level though, when it comes back to the county, is so you put a gas station in, you look at the road that's there, the entrance and exit on it is on a hill with shrubs right in front blocking the view to the highway. So at some point the county does have some culpability in looking at, okay, this is here, we can't let this not go away. But how does this impact our roads, and where's the best place for this to put? So just because it's cheaper and easier to put it close to where it doesn't mean it shouldn't have to have a longer driveway and come out to where people can see. Because right now, pulling out of there, you can't see. You bring a tractor that's 20 feet wide and you're coming up the hill, and people can't see around the arborvitae that someone's planted to make it look pretty. Again, that's something that needs to be addressed by the county.
Okay, if there is a site distance safety issue there, then you're correct. That is something for the county to look at. And Matt, maybe have somebody just take a look, make sure that vegetation hasn't created a hazard there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I thank you for your time. I had to start somewhere, and
Well, I think you started at the right place, and I think we're all on the same page. We'd like to see safety improvements there. And I've already told you how I would go about it, and I've offered to help you go about it that way. Okay.
And just for clarity, when you said 14, 16, you're talking about blocks,
Yeah, sorry, blocks.
where you're farming in the blocks out in the basin.
Yep.
Okay.
17, 16, 15, you said? Yeah. Okay. All right, next item on our agenda is approval of payroll rosters. Commissioner Didier, I'll pass those over to you if you don't mind making motions for those individually.
Okay. So it looks like we have our first is, I'm looking here for the first time I've done this. Is this the
So we have a variety of them. Some of them are fund expenditures and some of them are payroll. And this one's payroll,
Yeah.
this one's payroll, and this is fund expenditures.
Okay, gotcha.
So it would be a motion for approval of fund expenditures in that amount.
Okay, I move for fund expenditures in the amount of $670,216.61, and this has been approved by the auditor or deputy, two persons from the auditor's office.
Okay, and recognizing that Commissioner Cook and I have done this thousands of times, so it just comes second nature. It's the first time you've done it, so I'm just looking, and the only offer I would make is that it's been reviewed by representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator, but not approved. They don't approve. We do.
We approve.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
I
there's a
like
motion.
to say that it's been reviewed by them. So we have a motion. I'll second for the sake of ease on the phone. Commissioner Cook, any comments or questions?
Negative.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, so those are approved. Now we just move to the next one.
All right. I move for the salary clearing payroll in the amount of $756,849.65. And again, this has been approved by two members of the auditor's office.
And I'm sure you meant reviewed because we approved.
Reviewed.
And I'll second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay.
And I move for the payroll checks, net payroll checks for county roads in the amount of $126,449.05, and it's been reviewed by two members of the auditor's office.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. That also is approved. Thank you. Excuse me. The person making the motion signs the top line on these. I've already signed the second line for the seconder. Okay, that takes care of payroll and warrants. Next item is the consent agenda. There are 11 items on the consent agenda today. I know we will have discussion on some of these. I would prefer that before we have a motion for approval, that we identify any that anyone wants to separate out for separate discussion and vote. Are there any items on this list of 11 that any commissioner would like to separate out?
I would like discussion on number 11.
Okay, so we'll have discussion on 11. Do you want to separate this for a separate action, or you just want to have discussion as part of the consent agenda?
I just want discussion as part of the consent agenda.
Okay. So with that, entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda as presented with 11 items.
I move for approval of 11 consent agenda items.
Okay, and I'll second it. Okay, Commissioner Cook, I heard that. So second is by Commissioner Cook, and we'll move to discussion. Commissioner Didier.
My question is, what was our Franklin County engineer's estimate on the steps of the historical buildings?
I don't believe we had a dollar value estimate on that, did we, Jen? No. Yeah. Yeah.
But aren't we supposed to have an estimate done by our engineer before we put this out for bid?
We do for major construction. Matt, go ahead.
But not this construction?
First off, this isn't a public works department. What the county engineer and his staff did was review the existing plans that were actually completed by an architect, and he and his staff found them to be to be accurate, but no, we weren't asked to create an engineer's estimate. I will say that estimates are important when you are putting out an RFP or invitations to bid, so that you know exactly what process you should follow. In this case, because the threshold is anything that's greater than 35,000 up to 300,000, they followed that small works roster process. So there wasn't really any issue.
Is there any requirement for an engineer's estimate on small works roster projects?
It only becomes an issue if you use the wrong process in your bidding process.
I understand, but assuming that you use the right process for the small works roster, is there a requirement in that process for an engineer's estimate?
No, but I would assume the architect would have provided one to the historical site at the time.
Because the reason being is we had bids all over the place. We were from 90,000 down to 44,000, and I'm just curious as to what we estimated the cost to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't provide that support.
Yeah. So, Matt, an engineer's estimate may not be required, but it's not prohibited either. So in that window of 35,000 to 300,000, at what point would you start to feel like we probably ought to have an engineer's estimate? 50, 75, 100, 200? What?
Well,
I realize the customer generally would ask for it, but what's your advice? What's your recommendation? Because we're going to come across this bridge again, right?
Correct.
And so staff should have an idea that, if you're doing anything that is more than 50,000, you probably ought to be thinking about it. I'm just asking you, what's that number in your judgment?
To me, it would be anything that you believe is going to be that has a potential being over $35,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So not required, but in this case, you would have recommended.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That was my question.
All right. Good.
Otherwise, it looks good.
We all learn a little something from that one. Let's see. Commissioner Cook, while I'm giving a last review on this list, are there any items that you wanted to discuss?
Negative. It won't look good.
Okay. Juvenile. Okay. I don't see any that I have open questions on. So we've got a motion and second for approval of consent agenda, 11 items as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, so the consent agenda is approved unanimously. It's okay, we'll come back to signing those so that we can move ahead to a discussion on Tri-Cities Amateur Hockey Association contract. I don't see Mr. French here.
I'll present on his behalf. He's
Okay.
out of the office. The Happel Center has provided a proposed contract with the Tri-Cities Amateur Hockey Association. As you're aware, this has been a matter of some discussion for a length of time. Their hockey season is to begin in August, so time is becoming of the essence. It isn't absolutely essential that you approve this today, but we are requesting your consideration for approval today. The basic terms of the contract include an $80,000 rental fee for the upcoming year. It's just a 1 year or 1 season contract. It begins August 16th and ends April 30th of 2020. The contract schedules due dates, basically monthly payments of $10,000 through March of next year. One of the key provisions of the contract is the discussion about our ice-making equipment. We know that it's dated and it's difficult to find replacement parts and equipment for the ice-making equipment. The Happel Center will continue to be responsible for producing the ice. However, the Hockey Association is in the process of purchasing a new Zamboni machine to maintain some of that ice. They will provide Zamboni drivers, people who are trained on how to run those machines, and provide the insurance and payment for those people that will be using their equipment on the ice that we provide. There's an agreement in here that if the ice equipment completely fails and ice is not available, that both parties can terminate the contract so that we're not on the hook.
Forgive the interruption, but I don't want to get lost in the details here. That was one of the concerns I had, is that the language in the contract doesn't speak to failure in whose judgment. You know, is it a cost-effective to repair judgment? Is it our sole discretion? It's just really thinly worded and doesn't make clear that it's our call, not theirs. Because if it's $15,000, I can see Takaha saying, yeah, we think you ought to fix it. And I could see us saying, we don't think so. And I don't think the contract answers that question.
Okay.
And there may be some other clause or paragraph in the contract that I missed that says, you know, if there are questions or disputes that, you know, it defaults to the Haplo Center. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm going to try and cover as many of these points as I can.
No, I think that's fair. It does.
I think it's paragraph 17.
That's the one on the weapons.
It's 7-11. Oh, yeah, 17 was about weapons. That's one of my other questions. It's either 7-11. It's 7 or 11, I think.
It's 11.
Yeah, it says in the event, paragraph 11, in the event the ice plant were to have a total system failure, both parties agree that the use of the rink would be terminated and this contract would become void.
Yeah.
So it's based on our inability to produce ice with our equipment.
Well, and that's the kicker, is because our inability is tied to nothing more than our wallet. And if we're willing to pay for the repair, I mean, we're able. It's just a question of, you know, who decides how much, at what point does it become uneconomical, and who gets to make that call is really the issue. I normally wouldn't get hung up on that detail, except that we go through every season holding our breath that the whole thing isn't going to implode. So I think we can go through another season without a problem.
Keith, have we had any broken glass around the rink since they've been in there?
Yes, we have.
So we're responsible for 4 pieces of broken glass, and then after that, they're responsible for it?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of broken glass that's in the nature of a hockey game. It's a physical, slamming into the sides game, but there's also the possibility that kids are slamming pucks intentionally into the glass, or their sticks into the glass. They get angry.
What does a piece of glass cost for that?
It's several $100s, but I don't know the exact amount. But it's
more than that, isn't it?
It's a safety glass. Yeah, it's a special type of glass.
So I'm glad that issue has come up. That was one of the other items on my list. Previously, this group was paying us more than double what they're paying now, and I know that there's some accommodation for a Zamboni, but I'm opposed to the notion of us paying for damage that they caused, even if it is typical of a hockey game. Doesn't make it our responsibility.
That's where we came to this agreement of we would pay for the first few, and then beyond that, they would pay for them. It's every year we're paying for a few replacement sheets of glass.
And when we were getting $200,000 a year rental, I was okay with that. But now we're getting $80,000, and I'm much less okay with that. But moving along. Can we talk about 17, the firearms piece?
Yes.
I understand public safety, but I'm also one of those people with a concealed carry, and I think I'm pretty responsible about it, and I know there's other people out there who are, and I'm not sure why that's in there. If you're going to say this because we're going to be serving alcohol and it potentially comes under the prohibition of having firearms in a bar, then I could probably go with that.
I don't think that's the driving factor. I mean, certainly there's probably a connection to be made there, but it's more that we did not want them bringing weapons in without our knowledge. If people have a concealed carry permit, they would be permitted to.
Not as I read 17. It doesn't say you can't bring firearms unless you have a concealed carry. They
would require the written permission of the Haplo Center manager for them to be permitted under this
Well,
contract.
In the interest of time and not to be too much of a stickler, I'm just going to work under the assumption that we're doing that because there's a possibility in some events that alcohol will be served through the catering company, and we're
Right.
going to stay clear of the alcohol issue. So I'll let that one go.
So do you think we got room to maneuver on that glass, maybe down to 2 panels, and then they're responsible for the rest? Because I'd hate to see us commit to that. And like you said, kids sometimes they just shoot that puck at the glass, see if they can break it.
Correct. Yeah, if you wanted 2 pieces or no pieces and any broken glass, they're responsible.
To me, it's no pieces. We're $120,000 reduction in rent in 1 year, from roughly 200 down to 80. I realize that they're going to buy a Zamboni, but that's the capital investment for them. They're going to have equity in that equipment, and they're going to take it wherever they go in the future.
Correct.
I don't see any reason why we're paying for that. If the kids go in, they tear up the restrooms, they're responsible for fixing that.
Right.
And I think that the liability of a piece of glass getting broken just goes with the turf for running a hockey program. Just my view. If we were at the same rent as before, I'd have a whole different view.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe if we can just get that changed, I'm good with it.
If you're good with the rest of the provisions, we will propose that back to them and bring it back next week for final approval.
Well, as you might guess, I've got a few more questions.
Certainly.
One is on the liabilities and indemnifications. I see that our legal folks are represented today. Jen, you've reviewed this contract, I'm sure.
Yes.
And you wouldn't have sent it to us if you weren't comfortable with the indemnifications and the insurance and the liability coverage? Okay. Let's see, what was paragraph 7? I'm trying to remember here.
Paragraph 7 dealt with
It had to do with subletting.
subletting.
And that was my red flag on the liability question. It says that may sublet ICE to compatible programs, and Takaha will provide an identification of programs subletting to Hapo Center in writing. But it doesn't say that Hapo Center can say, we think they're too high risk, we think they create a concern or an issue for us. Is
That's probably intended to be incorporated under the term compatible, in that there would be other, when they host a tournament, for example, there may be other sponsors of that hockey tournament. But I think it presumes that they're not subletting it to something that's not hockey related.
Yeah.
Not youth hockey
Let's say
related.
they wanted to have a like a 3-on-3 basketball tournament that's instead is hockey, or a hockey shootout where you're going to let folks come in and take shots on goal and break glass panels. I'm willing to let go of the point, but I think the contract is really loose. It really is. A lot of the language in there is just, and I suppose I could have and probably should have provided more detail sooner. Had I not been out of town, I would have. So I'll just let that go, but I think you get my point.
Sure.
Legal is telling us that they're comfortable with the insurance provisions, so I'm just leery of the fact that if Takaha is indemnifying us, and they're a not-for-profit that has no assets and has no money, and there's a third-party entity that's in there under this compatible use clause, somebody gets seriously hurt and there's a lawsuit, Takaha's going to walk away because they don't have any resources. Under joint and several liability, the county is going to be on the hook. I don't know even if their insurance coverage covers the third party outside of the county and Takaha. I didn't see anything that said that they did. And so when you sublet it, is that insurance coverage still effective? I don't know the answer, but that makes me nervous.
Okay.
So maybe we could at least
I'll revisit that with our
maybe
legal
we could
folks.
at least just make sure that we're in fact covered, even if it's a third party that they've sublet to. I know in the aviation world, if I rent my airplane to somebody, I'm not covered, and whatever they do with it, I'm pretty much liable.
Okay.
Commissioner Cook, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add to this discussion?
I think you covered everything that I had looked up on,
So
discussions.
what's the wish? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Bring it back next week with the additions.
I'm sensing that there may be a bit of a time crunch here. Am I right? Is there a rush to get this done?
We'd like to get it done sooner rather than later. I mean, obviously, we've taken some time getting here. I think we have time to bring it back before the board next week, but I wouldn't want to push it any further than that.
Okay. Commissioner Cook, you comfortable with that?
Affirmative.
What, Commissioner Cook, I'd appreciate knowing your view on the issue of glass panels. I'm of the opinion that if they break them, they pay for them. Do you have an opinion?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that if they break it, they pay for them.
And that we don't, now the contract as written, we pay for the first 4.
I don't understand why we would pay for any of them. You know, with
Okay.
hockey, I played 15 years on hockey growing up in Minnesota, and your inherent, of course, we didn't have glass in those days. But your inherent discussions between players, whether they want to follow a fight or what, and then they get knocked against the glass. And I don't think it's our responsibility to repair their.
Okay. Commissioner Didier, do you have a...
I agree.
We're talking about that, but, that I would have a hard time, without, you get, again, you're getting into a hockey game where you're running hard for 20 minutes and emotions get high and so do the spectators' emotions. Sure don't need weapons up there deciding right and wrong.
Well, you and I have a different point of view on that, but I've already relented on the premise that there may be alcohol service and that would be a conflict. So I'm willing to concede to your point of view. Commissioner Didier, it sounds like you may be the tiebreaker here. No, I've actually said I'm willing to go along. I'm just curious what your point of view is.
Well, as a concealed weapon carry person myself, I think it's important that people can carry to protect themselves. Whether you need one in a hockey arena or not, I don't know. But to enforce that, how you can enforce that, you'd have to have somebody there enforcing at the door, and I don't think we're going to be able to do that.
Well, isn't all the county physicals weapons free?
All the county facilities?
Correct.
Well, if they are, I'm probably going to get arrested when I walk out of here. The sheriff is shaking his head no.
Okay. No, he knows better than I do.
Yeah. Well, I'm willing to go with your position just based on the fact that our caterer may be providing alcohol service in there. I don't think that makes it a bar, but in this case, I'm willing to give a little.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the glass needs to be. We're not paying for any of them, and
Well, that's my benefit anyway.
Yeah, I think they should have full responsibility for the glass. We've lowered the rent enough to the point where take full responsibility.
so we're all on the same page on the glass. I think we've resolved the question on the firearms. The only remaining thing is that I would just like an assurance from our legal review that the county is adequately protected against a claim from a third party that is subletting ice from Takaha, that there isn't some kind of a gap in there that we may have somehow overlooked. Okay, so with those items of guidance, we'll bring that back next week for final consideration. Commissioner Cook, anything before I move on to public comment?
I've got a couple more items.
Okay. Keith, we're still under administration office business. I think I heard you say you have a couple more items.
Yes. The Franklin County, or the Benton Franklin Health District, as you know, leases space from us in the Clark Building for a medical clinic. They have asked our permission to install some security cameras within that facility. No particular issue that's driving it. For example, there's been no incident where they think this would have helped or changed things, but as part of their effort to just improve their clinic facility, they've asked permission, and under the terms of our lease, any changes to that lease need written permission from the Board of Commissioners. I've reviewed it, discussed a little bit with Jeff Jones and Jason to kind of understand what their needs are, and I don't see a problem. I've asked our legal counsel and our facilities director for any issues. They haven't identified anything other than we would expect them to remove those cameras and take them with them when they leave and restore the property to its original
And they're paying
condition. And they'll pay for that. So I just want to make, before we authorize or grant them approval, I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with us doing that.
So I would just add a stipulation, which is that upon their departure, they either remove or repair, or if they wish to leave them, they can do that with our approval. We could work that at the time, I realize, but
right.
Commissioner Cook, any thoughts on this one?
I think they should buy the whole building.
Well, I've already pushed that point about 300 times, and I don't see them writing a check, but we can certainly raise that again. All right, so it sounds like we have board consensus to authorize the county administrator to express the board's approval for security cameras in the portion of our building on Clark Street that the health department currently leases from us, and that's with the understanding that upon their departure, they either remove and repair those cameras, or if they prefer to leave them, they can do that only with county approval at the time. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Thank
All
you.
Right.
We also received correspondence from the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation regarding some real estate that they have purchased in Franklin County recently. They are requesting a meeting with the Board of Commissioners, recognizing that we are subject to the Open Meetings Act. I'm not sure if we want to schedule a special meeting and have them come here to meet with the commissioners, or schedule them to meet in one of our regular county commissioner meetings, or the possibility of one representative from the county commission going up there to meet with them at their tribal council offices. There's about 14 members of their council. I don't know if it's more or less difficult for them to travel here. I think they'd be willing to do so if that's the preference of the board. I know they do like to meet elected official to elected official when possible. I offered to their assistant that it might be most likely for one commissioner and myself to go up there to meet with them, but they just basically want to establish a relationship, introduce themselves, and tell us a little bit more about the purpose of and their intent with respect to the 184 acres that they've recently acquired.
Let me run through this real quickly. First off, I've met with the Umatillas and other tribes on several occasions, most recently with the land transfer along the shorelines. And you're absolutely correct. Their preference is to meet with co-equals politically, elected officials. This room is not suitable because of the elevated dais and the audience-style seating. We certainly could entertain the idea of meeting in a conference room at the HAPO Center or somewhere else where we can make a respectful, co-equal seating arrangement. Having them come and meet with us gives all three board members an opportunity to participate. It gives them the opportunity to meet each of us, which I think is productive. I do believe it can be done in executive session on the premise that they have business-sensitive information that they wish to communicate with us, and that we want to run that by our legal folks, but I do recall that there are provisions in the Public Meetings Act that allow for protection of those business-sensitive matters. If not, then it probably is appropriate for the board to select someone to go with the county administrator to avoid a quorum and to meet with them at a location that's comfortable for them. I've given this a little bit of thought. Those are my recommendations.
Well, as far as the quorum is concerned, we are being invited. It'd be no different than going to Wasatch or anything else as all administrator. It is not a Franklin County meeting. We're being invited.
I understand, and I certainly agree with what you're saying. However, at any point in the conversation that we're asked for any thoughts from Franklin County's perspective, we then become a quorum. And if we do anything other than go sit in a room and listen, then it becomes a quorum under OPMA, I believe. And I'm quite confident that if we did that and didn't participate actively, it would be perceived at best as being rude. I get your point, and it's correct, but I don't think this is a meeting where we can go and be passive listeners. Keith, did they give an indication of when?
They did not specify as to when. I presume that's soon, but they didn't specify a date.
Well, I guess we...
At our convenience, it says.
Yeah. I guess we start with, is the board's preference to send a commissioner, perhaps the chair, and the county administrator, or a commissioner and the county administrator to meet with the Colville at their location, or would we prefer to, assuming it meets the conditions of OPMA, do a special meeting in executive session, perhaps at the HAPO Center, pending concurrence from legal that it in fact qualifies for executive session. I believe it does, but they're the attorneys, not me.
Well, seeing that it's 184 acres in our county and they're looking to set up shop in our county, I think it'd be wise to have it in our county.
Okay. I don't know if going and meeting them necessitates it being outside the county. I think either option could be in the county, but I don't disagree with your position. Commissioner Cook, what would be your preference?
Well, they're the ones that are inviting. I know that because you've had some experience with the right, that you go down and visit with them. I also don't have a problem with them coming up and say take a room out of the track or Apple Center. I have a hard time for that.
Okay. Do you have a preference of one over the other, or are they co-equal?
I think they're pretty much equal. It's just, they're, I'm sure that they would appreciate us traveling rather than 14 of them. But they're the ones that invited, so.
Right. Okay. Well, My recommendation, since there's no time set for a meeting and it's at our convenience, is that we have the county administrator confer with legal to find out whether or not we can do a full board in executive session at Hapo Center. My guess is they're going to say no, but I still think that there's a window to do that, having worked in another state OPMA agency where we were permitted to do that. But on the assumption that legal comes back and says no, that's either not legal or at least not advised, then I heard Commissioner Cook say that based on my experience working with the tribes that he would support sending myself and the county administrator to go meet with the Colvilles, saving them the inconvenience of 14 people traveling. It's easier for two of us. So then the board position, I'm going to ask for consensus in a minute, would be that first choice is meet at Hapo Center in executive session with the full board. If it's deemed that that's not recommended or not lawful, then myself and county administrator will go meet with the Colvilles at a location convenient to them. So that's the proposal. What's the wishes of the board?
We have one more option as far as if the meeting is considered a quorum, then call it a workshop where there's no public input whatsoever.
Maybe we can air that out a bit. The difficulty I see is that I think it's to the county's advantage for the Colville to be at ease and feel more likely to speak openly and freely about any concerns or issues. And if we do that in a workshop, it becomes, whether it's workshop or a regular meeting, it's going to be open to the public unless it's an executive session. If this is a relationship building opportunity to kind of air out and build rapport, I could see that restricting the dialogue. Not opposed to doing it, but I just think that's how it would play. I'm thinking back on previous meetings and how the tone of those typically go. There's respect, mutual respect is an important piece, and not creating an uncomfortable public dialogue sometimes is productive to a candid conversation.
Yeah,
I think so long as the county isn't discussing actions that we're intending to take, because obviously we can't be making decisions in an executive session. So again, the proposal is executive session at the Hapo Center if that's deemed legal. If it's deemed not legal or not recommended, then myself and county administrator will go meet with the Colvilles at a location convenient to them.
I agree.
Commissioner Didier?
I prefer it here.
Okay, well, let's place that as our first option. And to be clear, you prefer it to be here regardless of which format for meeting?
Oh, yeah, I think that's best because it's our county, and to travel out of our county to do business for our county, unless it's at state issues, I don't foresee that.
Yeah.
It's 184 acres in our county. They're trying to set up a casino here. We all know that, and I think that needs to be addressed here in our county.
Yeah. I'll just offer that I've been in a number of discussions recently, informally. It's not clear at all to me that their plan is a casino. I don't know what their plans are, but there's nothing that necessarily points to that I've heard. The other thing is that, again, drawing on a little bit of experience working with the tribes, accommodating their convenience and not asking them to have 14 people travel is something that will be appreciated and will start us off, I think, on a positive foot. So it sounds like we have consensus in general. Commissioner Cook and I concur with the specific proposal. I'm going to leave open the door to where the meeting is and be sensitive to Commissioner Didier's preference that it be in the county if that makes sense. It may be necessary to do it outside the county.
I may just interject one last thought. I don't want to prejudge their desire to meet here or there per se. This is a request of their, what they referred to as their Colville Business Council, which may not be their tribal council. And where I'm headed with that is that business council, if there's 14 members, they may not have personally seen the property and may have a desire to come to Franklin County to investigate and look at it. So it may very well be their desire to come here.
I'm not at all opposed to meeting here, and if there's any reason to do it, I'm fine with it. Just trying to avoid the inconvenience for 14 people. If the tables were reversed and it was 2 people from the tribe wanting to meet with 14 people from the county, I'd be really, really grateful if they came to us.
Exactly.
So I'm just trying to extend the reverse courtesy, nothing more. There's no other issue or agenda with that. Okay, so it sounds like
all right, thank you.
we have a guidance to move forward.
The last item I have is in response to a request last week from, I believe, Commissioner Didier and the board to write a letter to the Department of Ecology regarding the lack of farmer representation on watershed plans that the Department of Ecology is initiating as a result of legislation surrounding the Hearst decision, as well as new fees going into place for wineries in the region that is based simply on the presumption that they may have a water runoff pollution problem, not any identified existing problems. You were not at the meeting last week to participate in the discussion. I've drafted a letter and just look for your concurrence that I've identified the right issues and you're comfortable with us sending that letter.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in that Hearst decision, the farmers were supposed to be on these boards or commissions, correct?
Yes.
We were supposed to be represented, and we have been excluded. There's no farmer representation whatsoever.
Yeah. There are some individuals or groups that I think ecology has characterized as representing agricultural interests. But
one of them was the Sierra Club.
Yeah, there's not direct farmer input. So that was the issue that a number of the farming interests had, is that there was no direct farmer.
And as far as the wineries, honestly, it's just a fleecing of an industry that is profiting, and they want a portion of their profits. And to me, that is wrong on the presumption of future pollutants. And I think that Keith drafted an excellent letter that should be sent to the Department of Ecology.
So, I'm not opposed to communicating our views with ecology. I want us to do it in a way that doesn't get anybody's back up. I'd like to have the opportunity to meet with you, Keith, afterward and just digest that letter a little more fully than just a quick read sitting here at the table. Conceptually, I'm fine with it. I just want to look at the words and just make sure, because I've been down this road and written at least one letter that ecology took offense to.
We are working with them on a number of other issues.
And they almost always win.
They have a heavy hand sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want an opportunity.
They always win if no one will stand up against them.
That's true enough, and sometimes if you stand up against them in a way that they find offensive, you lose twice.
Well, this is offensive because they've excluded farmers from this picture. That's wrong.
I agree. Excluding farmers is wrong. Okay. Anything else, Keith?
I think that was it.
Probably not for today. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak? Morning, Mr. Baumann.
Good morning, Commissioners.
How's the
Thank you for this
airstrip?
opportunity? I'm sorry?
How's the airstrip?
Fabulous.
Good.
Wanted to talk to you and support what Mr. Holliday had to say this morning about 395. I farm out north of town. My family lives out there, lots of them. And I'm not sure what that looks like, where we need to apply pressure or who we need to talk to. Definitely took down Todd's name and we'll seek him out. But I have personally stood there and helped clean up multiple different accidents on high-speed roads where farm farm implements or tractors was involved. Have multiple friends north of town that have been in accidents, and being one that occasionally drives equipment on 395, it's serious. It's a serious deal. I don't know how we do that.
I'd love to see a frontage road and overpass and just pick a spot. Maybe you can help us with that. Where's the right place that's centrally located so that all the farm community out there wanting to move equipment doesn't have to travel forever on a frontage and then cross over?
Agreed. Farms were here first before the pass-through traffic was here, and both of us necessary, and I think that we can figure out a way to work and do both. It's just it's getting to be, and I hate to say it, but the number of deaths is what drives, and that's not the right way None of us, if we were putting it before a vote, none of us would do it that way. It's just by default that's what happens. And I don't know. Maybe you guys have suggestions of ways that somebody such as Mr. Holliday or myself or Mr. Calloway yesterday that had one of his machines in an accident. You buy insurance to help hedge against those kinds of accidents, but that never takes care of what happens in those situations. It's potentially a life, it's equipment, it's time, it's stress, it's grief on families that's involved in that. And I personally lifted a tractor off of the guy that was driving it. That will be his quality of life is, he's in a wheelchair for life. This happened down close to Patterson, but from semi rear-ending a set of rakes that was going down the road. And so I don't know how do we do that, but something does need to be done. And I don't know, just wanted to encourage him not to slow down. And you guys, you're our voice in these kinds of things more than us individually. We do have it, but when we support you guys and you guys will go and push on the proper areas, then I don't know. I'll bet you inside of 2 days that with a few of us we could probably get a room full of farmers to come and sit down behind you because you are our voice at a meeting or something of that nature. So anyway, encourage you to continue to push. I know that you would encourage you to continue that, and thank you for the opportunity.
I'll just offer, if the goal is to get an overpass, then I think your shortest path to do that is to get that room of farmers together and make sure that you have your senators and your state reps there. Not that your county commissioners aren't fully empathetic, sympathetic, and interested. We are all those things. But the people who write the budget for DOT are the people that need to carry the message for you. And Senator King out of Yakima is going to be a huge advocate. He's the ranking member on transportation. He was the chair when the Republicans had the legislature. But I would recommend Senator King, Senator Brown, Senator Schessler, Representative Dye, Representative Schmick.
Okay.
Those are the people that are in a position to actually push. I'll push too, but if you are like me and you'd rather get something done than talk about it, those are the right people.
Okay. Maybe you and I can sit down and have a cup of coffee. I can get some numbers and names from you.
Absolutely, and frankly, Commissioner Didier, as a long-time county resident and a well-known farmer, would be a good addition to that group.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
While we're on this topic of discussion, what you have multiple interchanges converging just south here, and you are not going to mitigate that traffic flow with overpasses and all those type of things, and it's going to continue to increase. Just the way it is with population growth and the infrastructure of our highways, violent. You have a problem, start with the simplest thing, which is getting all your representatives together and making some sort of demand that the traffic slow between here and slightly more of the second store of that. Because once you slow that traffic down, that'll mitigate those accidents. But the only way you're going to do that is by getting Mary Dye and all those people around the table making some sort of demand that the traffic is slow for public safety. not for individual things such as farming operations, et cetera, but for public safety, and make a demand because of the road. And you should be able to push that through to at least bring it down to, my bet's 50, 55, somewhere around there. But the slower you can make that traffic move from there to here, the better off you're going to be to try to hit your accidents will decrease, I'll bet, but your fatalities will certainly decrease because it's the speed that creates the fatalities. But you also can't fix stupid with fatality accidents. People make errors. You know, the motorcycle accidents you're talking about wasn't even in that area. It was actually at the Eltovia, or the Mesa interchange is where that took place, and it was the motorbike getting on rumble strips. It was launched and off into the ditch. Ultimately, it led to his death. So, just something to think about. One step at a time, and reducing the speed would probably be the easiest and quickest fix before you'll ever get overpasses, underpasses, or those types of things. Just simply not going to happen.
So absolutely agree with every bit of that. And I would just add that if you want an overpass a decade from now, you start now.
Start now.
And you start asking for the overpass now, and then you negotiate it down to a speed limit change, but you keep pushing on the overpass.
Oh, yeah.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah, ultimately, but that's a long way.
Right.
The quick fix is to reduce the speed.
Well, I found it's easier to ask for an overpass and be willing to accept a speed limit change. All right, anybody else? Seeing none. Mr. Johnson, any need for executive session today?
No.
Okay. Commissioners, Commissioner Cook, any comments, anything?
I have none, just thank you for putting up with me for the remote.
No. Hope everything's going well there. Let's go ahead and I'm going to adjourn here in a moment. You can stay on the line or not. Commissioner Didier, anything else you want to discuss today?
Nothing.
Okay. And I've not got anything else for this morning's business either. So unless there's objection, we'll be adjourned at 10:52. Okay. Hearing no objection, we're adjourned.